I'm delighted to introduce the founder and CEO of Nutrition Plus, your charity dedicated to improving the health and well-being of Indigenous and disadvantaged people, particularly children in Australia and New Zealand. Louise holds a position on the Inclusion and Diversity Committee for the Global Entrepreneurs Organisation and an Action Track Leadership Group for the United Nations Food Systems Summit in 2021. Please help me welcome to the stage Louise Glennie.
When the street over the river and stream, when we go fishing, we catching the brim. When the river's on, we jump off the bridge.
Everyone on your feet, give it up for
When the
Louise.
street over the river and stream, when we go fishing, we catching the brim. When the river's on, we jump off the bridge. When we get home, we play some beach.
Call me Wally, this is where I'm at. I wear my NRL baseball cap. Let him out of my team if you know what I mean. To be the captain, that's my dream.
My name is Keith from McKenna Street. I walk and still beat the beat. When the crow's here, I shake a leg. This is my rhyme and that's what I said.
Hello after everyone.
First of all, I want to say, I don't really know where you at that way. My name is Maya and people always say, I act kind of strange like a Dubo way. I like fish and mango pickle. When I climb trees, them feet, them pickle. I'm broke this month, didn't pay rent. I had to jump town and the money's all spent. I had to jump town and the money's all spent.
When the street over the river and stream.
Yeah.
When we go fishing, we catch the brim. When the river's low, we jump off the bridge. And when we get home, we play some beach. When the street over the river and stream. And when we go fishing.
Okay.
I think we're on.
After that lengthy introduction, thank you.
Let's hear it again for the Wakagetty dancers. What a great way to introduce you to this segment and this opportunity to share with you some amazing stories. And the people you're going to hear from today, first of all, Elsie is with me to my right. Elsie is a proud Biripi woman, on the First Nation Advisory Board for Pride and Mardi Gras Worldwide, a strong advocate for adversity and inclusion. She's been on the Nutrition Plus board for 5 years. David Newham, Nutrition Board for 10 years. That's where he learned how to dance, ladies and gentlemen. A cultural educator, Wiradjuri man, and a lover of dad jokes. I'm warning you now. And of course, Louise Glennie. Let's hear a little bit about Louise, recovering academic. Just let that sink in for a minute. One of the owners of the Juice Plus company, founder and CEO of Nutrition Plus, and a lover of David's jokes. My name's Garth Russell. I'm an extractor of stories. I'm a Juice Plus partner. And thanks to Juice Plus, I, with my wife Sue, started our own wellbeing business called Wellbeings & Co. And I thank Juice Plus for starting us on that amazing journey. So I'm also on the board of Nutrition Plus. And I would like to say, Louise, you've got a few things to say yourself.
Take it away.
Take it away.
Oh my God, it's so great to be here. It's so wonderful to see so many familiar faces, and I'm really grateful for everyone who's made the journey to our nation's capital. First of all, I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners, the Ngunnawal people of this land, and extend my gratitude to the elders past, present and future, and also respect, and extend that to the Maori people in Aotearoa, hope I got that right, and any other First Nations people that are here today, welcome. I also owe a lot of gratitude to my team here. I had a month's holiday, which was supposed to be after conference. Remember, it was moved from Melbourne to Canberra, and it was a month later. Well, I've been absent, and my team here have been absolutely wonderful in, making sure they had my back. And I really appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you.
Okay, Louise, I want to start with an obvious question when it comes to Nutrition Plus. I met you, sat down and had a coffee with you probably about 9 years ago. And I asked you that question then, what I'm going to ask you now, because it got me on board, got me totally connected with what this amazing charity is about. So let's go back and find out why Nutrition Plus became so important to you.
Okay, so I know some of you have heard this a few times, so apologies if, just have a little snooze. But when I was an undergraduate back in the 80s, I had the privilege of having an Aboriginal lecturer, and one day he just talked about Aboriginal issues, all the health and socio-economic issues associated with that, and why. So really it was the first time I'd heard about our own history. So things like, they're not pleasant things: massacres, stolen generations, forced removal of people from land, which they are deeply connected to and feel they're one and the same, and indeed we are all one and the same. And anyway, he planted a seed, and I didn't know what to do with it. I knew I had to do something. And it wasn't until Peter and I bought the Juice Plus company off the previous owners, and I said to Peter, oh my God, I think I've got away now, because I'd been on our products for 8 years prior to that, and I knew the power of the products. And then all of a sudden I had the means to be able to do something that was going to be meaningful. And it was about the time of, it was 2007, 2008. And so it was about the time of Kevin Rudd's Sorry, and a ramping up of reconciliation, and also more talk about closing the gap and setting goals in that area. And so it was a really good time to start Nutrition Plus, and to base it in reconciliation in action, and also in an attempt to close the gap. And and so it was also a way for Peter and I to personally give back, and also extend that opportunity out to the Juice Plus community. And I want to thank the Juice Plus community, because every sale of Juice Plus, there is a small contribution that comes back to Nutrition Plus. And there's some people in this room that also donate in excess of that. And some have since day one, and I'm deeply grateful for those people.
And give yourselves a round of applause, because so many people, as Louise said, have had a role to play in what's already been achieved through Nutrition Plus. Before we talk about what has been achieved and what your hopes are for the future, let's talk about some of the hard statistics and some of the facts around indigenous health or ill health in this country, and the effects of that.
It's they're a massive disadvantage within Aboriginal communities, and it's heartbreaking when you hear about some of the stories and the number, that's still the wide gap that exists in life expectancies. And also, like for instance, yesterday I was listening to Linda Burney. Now, she's the first Aboriginal woman to be appointed as the Federal Minister for Indigenous Affairs. And she was reporting on the latest Closing the Gap report, and it's pretty damning. There were 17 goals set, and only 4 are on target to be met in the next 10 years. So, there are a little bit of closing the gap in the life expectancy, but things like incarceration rates are still increasing, and also suicides, things, and it's just absolutely heartbreaking how much disadvantage. And I think until all Australians really embrace our history, some people aren't able to move forward. And I think it's important for us to all know our own history and to acknowledge our own history, even though it's dark and awful in some places, and then we can all move forward together.
And the thing is, until we actually start reaching out and helping people, that's how we feel connected half the time, isn't it? We've got to make that move. We've got to take that action. And I know Celine has said for many years, action takes us out of doubt. Sometimes maybe we doubt that we can help, but when we start helping, that's when the heart kicks in.
That's right.
Yeah.
So maybe I can go through some of our achievements to date. So these are not the board's achievements or my achievements. This is our collective achievements. So be loud and proud about some of this.
Yes, yes.
So since 2008, we got off to quite a slow start, but we've got momentum going now. We've raised nearly $1.1 million, and that's pretty good. We've also had 74 projects. We've got 43 current projects, and our impact is estimated at 2,500. We've got 15 school projects where we provide Juice Plus products to, and also funding for gardens. We've got 17 small grants which are wide-ranging and supporting all sorts of projects in Indigenous and disadvantaged areas, and also 11 10 million meals projects, which basically feeds homeless and disadvantaged people. In addition, we've been doing cultural education. I'm not pressing the button, by the way, so I'm speaking very fast. And our vision for 2025 is to raise $2 million, and we want to have 60 running projects and have an impact of around 5,000 per week.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing.
Can we just hold it on that screen for a while, please, out back?
So you want to highlight a couple in particular that have really meant something to you?
Yeah, so I think moving forward, we're looking for projects that actually make impact. So it's the old story, you can provide someone with a fish or you can teach them how to fish. And a few projects that come to mind, or groups of projects. In our school projects, for instance, when we're providing the Juice Plus products, we're actually, the impact of that is that children aren't hungry when they go to the classroom. They can concentrate better. They can achieve more in their school day. They turn up to school more, so there's less absenteeism. And it builds their self-esteem because they are achieving more. So that's pretty impactful. One of our other small grant projects, for instance, is Purple House in the Northern Territory. And it provides a bus that goes around to remote communities and does renal treatment for people with kidney disease. Now, that organisation has a lot of funding from a lot of places, but what Nutrition Plus did was we provided money for a bush tucker medicine garden, which the local community makes a balm to support, in addition to traditional Western medicine, their own medical treatments. So the impact of that is a better treatment of the people that Purple House treats, activity in the garden, and also preserving culture. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot to take in, and the future is it's a two-edged sword, isn't it? There's so much to do, but I know you're very optimistic about the future.
Yeah, I think we increasingly moving into those impact projects, and one of the things that Linda Burney was saying yesterday was about incarceration rates. It costs an awful lot of money, for instance, to keep someone in jail, like hundreds of thousands of dollars a year or even millions of dollars. Not to mention the personal stress and just tragedy around that, and also for their families and for their communities. So every time we keep somebody out of jail, the crime rates also decrease, and that person has a chance to get on with their life and do something with their life. And I know David's going to touch on some of this, because David to me is a living example of connecting with culture and Uncle Paul. And he once said to me that he would either be in jail, dead or using drugs. And all of the Wakagiti boys have connected with Uncle Paul. Now, Uncle Paul should have been here today, but had COVID. So we're all sort of winging it a little bit, if you hadn't picked up on that.
Well, that might be a good opportunity to, I might get David to come and sit and I'll have a chat with David. So, Louise, Glennie, thank you. Don't go anywhere, Louise. I want you to stay here with us on stage. And you take that mic. We're swapping. This is my good side. Not that I've got a great side, but it's it'll do. We got the, g'day mate, good. Got the blue jacket menu, the memo. All right, let's talk on behalf of Uncle Paul, because in a way we have a chance to talk about what he's meant to the communities that he's travelled around and impacted over the years. So I want to get a sense from you as to what Uncle Paul means to you and to the boys and girls that he's had so much to do with.
So a small question to start with. Yeah, and he did want to pass on his apologies. He loves the community, loves sharing. This is a man that I have to say, with bias, hand up bias, one of the most connected and wisest people I've had the humbling opportunity and the privilege to learn from. He commits to the values of giving, sharing, the responsibilities and obligations, ideals to life. And this man would never tell you the things that he has done over the 45, all his life, the 55, 50, 60, I'm not saying his exact age, something years. So I'm not speaking on his behalf, I'm just speaking about him.
Yeah.
He sat with the Dalai Lama, he sat down and done business across Australia. He is a philosopher, he's an educator, he's a humanitarian, and then weaved into all of that, he's a father, he's a proud Aboriginal man, and he's an author.
Yeah.
I happen to just have that on my lap, wouldn't you know? And as Louise did say, myself and my brothers who performed for us, the Wakagiti men, he's changed our life and he saved our life and enabled us to move away from becoming a statistic and maybe surviving and following our traditional ways, our old law, the law that is in the land that's there for all of us, morals and values on how to live your life so that you thrive, not just survive. So that is that's a little snippet. And those leaders who have spent time with that old man at NMD school, and we have taken leaders out in country, and I want you to understand that it's not on country. In country, sit with country, be with country, let country be your teacher. They'll understand the power of that man and the humility.
I've had the pleasure of reading the Dreaming Path, and it seems to me that there is so much that we can learn from that. It is about well-being. It's about honouring ourselves. It's about honouring our environment. It's about being part of the land. Can you give us a sense of what the line that an Indigenous person took and can still take from conception to adulthood in a brief sense, because it just makes so much sense that everyone knows their role, everyone knows where they fit into the big picture. Can you just speak to that for a moment?
Well, I think the fact is, when you're living a life that's full of contentment, you're living a content life, it's fulfilled, it's got meaning because you're giving, you know what your responsibilities and obligations are. That old man, David Mudunjali, talks about our philosophy on how we view the world from an Indigenous philosophy, from a traditional way, from being conceived. And we believe everything in this world is conceived. And these are words that come straight through that old man and through Jammu, Uncle Paul Gordon. Rocks are conceived. Everything is conceived. And then it's born. And when it's born, it grows. And with growth comes change. And with that change, you inherit and you take on responsibilities and obligations, not rights and entitlements. My friends, we need to shift away from that rubbish. Responsibilities and obligations is where it's at. When you're doing that, then your life and you find meaning because you're fulfilling. Let's think about people in our lives we know that are running away from or aren't fulfilling responsibilities and obligations. Or even in your own little story where you may not be doing the things you're supposed to, whether it's in a Juice Plus business landscape or beyond. Meaning is hard to find, but you will find that meaning when you're doing those things. And when you find meaning, then you find contentment. That's the magic right there. And when you're content, then you're ready to complete your life. And we believe then you go back to the beginning. And for us, that old man wanted me to say is, he wanted us to recognise that some of the things we all have in common is that we are made up of water. 60+% of our body mass is water. You knew this, right? No one knew this. Okay. Good crowd. Well, I'm telling you.
They're nodding, you just can't see them.
And the different parts of our body hold more water. So we are water. And we're made up, the rest is earth. That is how we see it from a traditional philosophy. So therefore, if we've made up with water and we're made up with earth and we poison the water, we pollute it, we drain it out and spray it over things that aren't necessary, we sell it off. If we poison the water, we are poisoning ourselves. What are our grandchildren going to be? They're going to be poisoned. We poison the earth, we pollute the earth, we are polluting ourselves, because our philosophy is we come from the earth and we're going to go back there. When we go to that completion stage, that old man tells us our water will return back to the water and our earth will return back to the earth. And things will come out of that. Grass will grow. Animals will eat that grass. Other animals will eat those other animals. It might go up into the rain and come back down. We are cyclic. And if we can view the world like that, if we can take some of that out of the dreaming path, indigenous thinking to change your life, I truly believe we're going to unlock the greatest life we can have. And it kind of has been working for about 250,000 years, we also believe from the beginning of time. I'll sit here and talk for 3 hours about this stuff. I'm passionate.
Yeah. I sat with Uncle Paul just briefly about a week ago, and I was trying to get into my head how we in this Western world, how we have gone, a society that's gone so far down the other path or another path from what you're talking about, how we can bring it in to this life, these lives that we live. And Uncle Paul said to me, it can be as simple as just recommuning with nature, just being in the moment, just getting back to your heart. What do you make of that? And I mean, you do a lot of cultural work, you know, with the broader community as well. What resonates, do you think, when we try and make what we're hearing in this book relevant to our current lives?
One of the key things that I noticed, and you may have picked it up with these men that came up and danced, if you've ever had a conversation with any of the Wakigiti men, maybe with myself, or you've spent time with Uncle Paul, there's something going on when you're with us. There's feeling. Or if you've spent time with traditional knowledge holders, there's feeling. That old man, Big Bill Nietzsche, old Kakadu man who's passed away now, he talked about it. Even if you're reading a book, it must have feeling. It's about feeling. So when you sit in a natural environment, sit and feel and be. Get off your phone. Sit and find a place where you're going to connect. And what is starting to be shown, the University of Canberra here, brother Dr. Ben Wilson, they've now embedded into their teaching degree a compulsory 1 hour per week for the year where the teachers, undergrad teachers, have to go out and find a spot where they're going to sit for an hour every day, like a week for an hour, and reflect and report. And already the results from that have been astounding. That's changing lives because the land is old. Simple things. I do talk to a lot of people. I've been blessed and fortunate enough to be given skills from this old man. And I haven't met anyone yet in Australia that doesn't want to have a world where there's more peace, where there's more respect, where there's more sharing, where there's more love, where there's less lies, where there's less violence, where we're giving all the time, where we know each other's story, where we're connected, where we're sharing, we're not stealing. Put your hand up if that's something that you'd like to see more of in the world. So right there, in our stories, in the landscape, sitting down and listening, looking, doing and feeling, is how you can embed Indigenous thinking to change your life. It's not the panacea. There, I got that word in. They didn't think I'd get the word in, but I did. I get a
and you put it in a
free. I get a free drink now for putting that in.
That's great. Well done.
But there'll be stuff, water, H2O. Remember, stay hydrated. There are things in there that you can add in to your already beautiful world. Your your ideals, your camp, your Nura. It's about adding value. It's not about taking away. We shared story. And I can love your story if it doesn't take away from my story. That's a really important thing. Last year I talked about the disconnection we have in the world in a time when we shouldn't be so. Now.
Yeah. I'm fascinated too, David, by the concept that right across this continent, First Nation Australians knew how to connect with each other from the west coast to the east. It's a fascinating part of that book. Can you give us a sense of that? Because I think that helps explain that sense that we are all connected. We should be looking for what we have in common, not what sets us apart.
Well, let's think. Okay. So,
I know these are big questions, maybe you.
Look, they're right up there, along with what my PIN number is.
A couple of drinks and I'll get it out of you, mate. No worries.
One drink. Because we shared. We shared story, we came together, and we celebrated, we married across into groups, we gave, we had one law, and we loved our mother. Our mother gives us everything. Our creators put us here. Our animals that walked the landscape, you heard Brother Waylon talk about that. And we came together and we built relationships. We didn't build walls. We didn't build armies. We didn't build weapons of mass destruction. Not that they ever existed, apparently, because they went looking and they never found them. We built relationships. And the old fella, Uncle Paul, talks about that. Jammu says, you haven't been able to find in this land any big killing fields from mobs fighting each other, castles, forts. Now, we had the technology, my friends, don't you worry. We've got the oldest human-made structures in the world here in Australia. One very fine example is out at the Brewarrina fish traps. Now, they say they're 40,000 years old. We say they've been there from the beginning of time because our Creator built them. But 40,000 years is pretty old. Yeah. That's a little bit older than the pyramids for those playing at home. We shared. Yeah. And you could travel across through doing ceremony. You could travel across and sharing and giving and receiving all the way over to the other side of the country, and little changes in language, you'd still be able to communicate. There is evidence of that happening. Yeah. Matthew Flinders did that when he circumnavigated Australia. He took 2 Aboriginal fellas with him, one from Newcastle, a Wabikal, and a Wiradjuri fella. And all the way around, except for one spot, whenever they stopped, in his journal, My Native Guides, he was astounded at how they could communicate with all the other groups to put their boat in, get water and food and supplies, and they were welcomed. That's pretty impressive. Certainly not a culture that were fighting each other.
No. We all have times when we try to explain what we believe is good for someone else, and there's a wall there, there's nothing happening, you're not getting through. With something as important as getting across the importance of the broader community understanding the First Nations' place here in this country, what they have been through, what has been taken away. What's the difference between someone getting that and not getting it? You've spoken to a lot of people over the years. What's been the thing that's brought down that barrier from your perspective?
Coming together and sharing what we've got in common. We've got to sit down and talk, my friends. We've got to yarn. Suspend judgment, share story. And when we're saying, well, that's our story, this is the stories in the land. If you're here in this country and you're taking, which we all are, oxygen, water, so we've got things in common. We sit down and share. It's just my experience that you start sharing and you want to listen and you want to look. That's a really good start. And and there is a massive shift. Attitudes are changing. It's so heartwarming. My spirit is uplifted because, 100%, because people wanting to come together and we want to know there's something, we've got to do something different. We need a restart. The last 2.5 years have been like that.
Yeah, totally.
And accept that some people don't want to know, and that's okay. I'm going to jog on. Yeah. I can't, I'm not going to force you, although I've got a sore knee, so it might be a shuffle on. I've got a dad joke coming up, don't you worry.
Oh yeah, I know, I can feel it brewing. I want you to share an example with us of a group of people that were the most unlikely to want to look at the world from that perspective. Because this is a great, talk about a shift in belief and a shift in attitude. Tell us, you've witnessed the work with Uncle Paul, with some people that have really gone, hang on a minute, what are we doing?
So Brother Jeremy, who shout out, we helped the old fella, we call him old fella as old man, Jammu, Uncle Paul, the wise one, yes boss, whatever, sometimes it changes. And we helped run, it was called Space Camp. It was called Space Nora. And so it was the Australian government's national space program brought all of their players together. Think Big Bang Theory, astrophysicists, rocket scientists, people that were saying words that we all knew what they were in the front of their face. And then me and Jeremy would step back and go, what was that? I don't know. So we just go, deadly.
Panacea.
That's the panacea. Disloboblicated. So they were very, in their lane, they were very, very switched on and highly motivated and people. And they were running our space program. And the old fellow, I'll just say it blunt, he just jammed them politely. Just gave them so many truth bombs and worldview changing by being out in country, and got them thinking about, whoa, hang on a minute. The CEO of Australia's space program said, oh, Uncle Paul, I've got to bring my whole executive back here because this has completely changed my whole thought pattern. I had a young she was a rocket scientist. She was a rocket scientist. Does anyone know a rocket scientist? Has someone got their hand up? Are you a rocket scientist? Your friend is. Oh, I hope it's not the friend I'm going to tell this story about. Okay, so I was sitting there and she was telling with Uncle Paul that after hearing those big questions about why are we putting stuff up in space? We don't need it. It's in excess. How is that serving our world? How is that going to leave this place in a stronger position? There's that much junk. Go and look into it, the whole space program. Sorry, but I'm off it. And she was like, I'm just completely having this whole moment where I'm thinking I'm going to change my whole vocation. I don't think there's a point to what I'm doing. We felt bad. We're like,
what have we done?
what have we done?
Life work.
But of course, the wisdom of Uncle Paul brought that around and said, that's, we can work with that. And I just thought, I'd never anticipated that happening. And I have to shout out to Jeremy. He cooked. I didn't cook at the camp. I was terrible.
Yeah, but that's wonderful. And you see that time and time again with Uncle Paul, don't you, where he just speaks the truth. It's the truth. And when people are ready to hear the truth, they hear it.
Yeah, we call it the cultural interface. He just meets you where you're at.
Yeah.
My friends, he just meets you where it's at.
Yeah. Dad, look, you better get the dad joking out, and then I want to talk about Uncle Paul's daughter's amazing painting, which people have a chance to bid for, to raise money for Nutrition Plus and end up with this amazing piece of artwork.
Correct, and we want to give the beautiful Elsie some time to speak as well. No, I'm not going to tell the dad joke. It's all good. No, I won't. But did you hear about what the water said when the oxygen left it? Oh. What about that one?
What about that one?
I got one more.
Oh, no.
What did... So I had to get these for space camp, right? I had to get these jokes because they're scientific jokes. What did oxygen say when it met magnesium? OMG.
David will be here all day, all night. Try the veal.
Tomorrow night, don't you worry.
Let's talk about this amazing artwork. And Louise, you might want to jump in here before we hear from Elsie too.
Yeah, just very quickly. If you go out to the Wakagetty stand, this beautiful painting will be here. It's actually painted by Uncle Paul Gordon's daughter, Sarah Gordon. I have 3 of her paintings. I'm a little bit addicted. It's actually inks on Japanese paper. And this story is called We Are the Stone People, and it's from...
Oh, nice.
It's a story from around the Brewarrina area where their family comes from. So it's very special. Elsie's got her eye on it. I have my eye on it. Peter's got his eye on it. So please go and bid if you'd like, because the funds come back into Nutrition Plus. And we've also got Uncle Paul's books for sale out there. And I tell you, They are a guide to life. You need to read it.
I recommend. I recommend it. So it's up to you. Bid, raise some money for Nutrition Plus, and maybe end up with that amazing artwork. Okay, I think it's time to hear from Elsie Stuart, a powerhouse. Do you want to sit here in the hot seat? Okay. It's warm. Oh man, it's hot. You're a bum. Anyway.
Wow.
I can't believe I said that out loud.
Hi, everyone.
Hi, Elsie.
David's obviously the talker in our group, so I'll try and keep it short and sweet. Our plans sort of changed over the last week about what we were going to talk about and how we were going to present it to you. And when I found out almost a week ago now that Uncle Paul wasn't going to be here, I decided that I would just step up and try and do a bit of storytelling. I'm just going to share a story with you. I don't have anything glamorous or glitzy or anything like that. I'm just going to share one of my favourite stories with you. And as Louise said, we've got 43 projects at the moment, so this is just one of 43 stories. In this image here, the blonde boy in the hat is one of my oldest friends, and he's grown up in Byron Bay and recently, or sort of 3 years ago, started working in Lismore with a small Aboriginal community. He contacted me 3 years ago to see if I would be able to help them with some funding for a vegetable garden, which we all sat down at a board meeting and we decided that that was a go-ahead and that we would give them the funding. But about a week before the funding actually got there, one of their students committed suicide, and it was really awful. He was 16 years old, and it rocked them completely. So they used that funding to build a garden for him and his family and all of the local community to sort of mourn him. And it was like a really wonderful place that they all sort of got together and worked through all of the grief and traumas together. Being in Lismore at the beginning of the year, they obviously lost that garden. They lost the whole area, the whole town went underwater. And RAF called me and said, look, we need to do something for these kids. Can we rebuild the garden? What can we do? And I said, well, leave it with me. We'll speak to the board and we'll see, what we can do. A few days after that, RAF called me and said, look, I've got an idea for a trip. I don't know how much funding we can get, but there's you guys and a few other bodies that we're going to go to and see what we can come up with. So again, we sat down as a board and we went over it and we decided that it is something that we would fund. And we were lucky enough to be able to send 7 of them to the Rock in Uluru, which was a pretty amazing experience. And there were 2 students in particular that they'd both lost a sibling each. One of them had been in and out of juvenile justice, and they weren't sure if those 2 students were going to be able to go on the trip because they were quite naughty and 3 teachers probably wasn't enough. But they actually sat down with 2 elders, they told me, for 8 hours at the bottom of the Rock, and spoke about importance and family and connection and all of these things. And those 2 boys have been amazing ever since. They've been back for a month now. Neither of them have missed a day. It's been a really wonderful and incredible experience. I think that this next image here is those 2 boys. And my point in this story is that 5 minutes ago, you didn't know who they were. They don't know who any of you are. But somewhere along the line in your story, you've been connected with Juice Plus, that's connected you with Nutrition Plus, that's connected you with these boys. And on behalf of me and our team and these kids, I just wanted to say thank you so much. And everything that you're doing you're changing the lives of all of these people, and we really appreciate you and thank you.
So,
well, that's pretty much us. I want to also thank a very good friend, a very good board member, Garth Russell. He's a big deal. Do you know Garth? He's been on the radio for a long time.
yeah, right.
It makes it so much easier when we're just sharing story and we have someone that believes in and gives time to the charity. Elsie, so good. I don't know why you keep doubting yourself, sis. You're a legend, and our leader, our boss. And So give him a little clap, because I'm going to finish up. So for my first song, cue the lights, please.
Run, it's a trap.
Yeah, bit of Barry Manilow.
Please don't.
No. Too much coffee or something. Want to do an activity to finish up. We love you. We appreciate everything that you do, not only for your own little camp, for Nutrition Plus, but for this place that we call Australia. We want to challenge you and encourage you to do more and share your story. So I want to ask you now, if you can and you're able, to stand up where you are in your chair. Get your wallets out and and I want you to do a little pivot. So we're going to look to your left, to your right, and if you've got people behind you in front, I want you to have a look and really pay attention to who that person is. And I want you to think about and feel, have you shared any story with them at conference so far? Because what we want to challenge you to do is by the end of this conference, you've shared story together and you've shared about what you've heard from our session and maybe where you're from and why that's so special to you and what you're going to do for your giving to wherever that might be. We do not share story enough, my friends, I'm telling you. Not 1 hour of one person talking, okay, sharing story. So have a look. Now, to finish up, raise your right arm if you can. Did you record how many people said they're going to shout me drinks tomorrow night? Yeah, we're on, Wakagiddy, we're on. Nah. Keep me out. I'm never coming back. I'm not invited back. I know this. And give yourselves a pat on the back. Now, anyone who's a teacher, this is what the students that I share with love to do. They go, pat on the back, pat on the back, pat on the back, and clap, clap, clap. Whoop, whoop. Yee-haw, deadly. Let's do it. Let's do this. You ready? Come on. Pat on the back, pat on the back, pat on the back, and clap, clap, clap. Whoop, whoop. Yee-haw, deadly.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.